All right, hello, all you beautiful people. I am here today, tickled pink, to be talking to the one and only Eric Daino of the Holophonics, the group behind Banjo Skazooie, Donkey Skang Country, and Parking Garage Rally Circuit, as well as a whole bunch of original material. So, Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is cool. I love talking about video game music.
Fantastic. We got lots to talk about then. I'm familiar with your work, but for individuals watching this who aren't so familiar, who is Eric Daino?
Well, I'm a musician and an audio engineer, and my band, the Holophonics, plays a what would be a very loose definition of ska, is what I would say. uh, I've been doing ska for my whole life. The Holophonics have been going for like 12 years now. That's like my main project. The band is based in Texas, but I live in New York, and I'm an audio engineer up here in the city, and doing a lot of live audio, a lot of studio production. But yeah, we've been plugging away, doing a lot of video game music with the band, and our last big project was the soundtrack for Parking Garage Rally Circuit.
So 12 years the Holophonics. How many albums have you guys released, give or
So
take?
I'm like always losing track of this, but I actually I counted them recently because it was 2024, and I thought it would be a weird coincidence. And yes, the Parking Garage Rally Circuit soundtrack was our 24th album.
Big 24?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any big celebratory plans for number 25?
Uh, yes, it's going to be the next Parking Garage Rally Circuit soundtrack. We're doing a follow-up. Wallaber is producing another 8 courses for the game. We're basically doubling the content, and I'm working on the music for that right now.
And so, you've mentioned your main band's the Holophonics. Do you do any solo material as well?
Yeah. I've been doing solo music for a number of years with sort of like a variety of different musicians backing me up. It's a little bit of a weird distinction because I have the Holophonics where I'm the main songwriter and band leader, and then I also have my solo material where it's the same situation. But I mean, stylistically, it's a little bit different. The place that I write my music from, like in terms of like the lyrics, usually a different origin depending on the project. And yeah, I mean, now that I'm living in New York the past few years, and the rest of the guys in the Holophonics all still live in Texas, we don't play quite as much. We do maybe like a little bit of touring here and there, but like we're not doing like local shows with regularity like we used to. So now my gigging as a performer is up here in New York, and my friends, mostly from the band Stop the Presses, they back me up when I do my solo music up here. Um, and I don't do as many gigs with that project as I'd like because I'm super busy doing other audio work all over the city. But yeah, I mean, there's always like some crazy project that I'm involved in. I'm always overworked. I'm always overextended. There's a lot of things happening.
And you admit that 24 albums later here. Um,
Yeah.
so you mentioned sound engineer. You do a lot of the production for your music yourself.
Yeah.
Where did you go to school for that? Like, what education do you have?
So my undergraduate work is in music theory and composition. I did that at the University of Delaware, and then I went to grad school at the University of North Texas for historical musicology, which wasn't exactly very practical. It didn't have a lot of like real world applications. It doesn't, other than being a researching music history professor. But the really cool thing about going to school at the University of North Texas was that I met a lot of really amazing musicians like the guys in the Holophonics. So my formal training is not in audio technology or engineering, but I picked all that up just sort of along the way, happenstance. Figuring it out for my own benefit to record my own music, working for other bands, working for a lot of cover bands, just a lot of practical experience, which is it. I mean, it's funny because like the music industry is one of those things that's like, you can have the the intense formal education, or you can be completely just on the job, like practical experience. And I have both of those in different things. So
Right.
I can't make up my mind. I'm all over the place.
Well, fair enough. And I mean, it gives you options. You can branch out, and you've done a lot. So
I mean,
24 albums with the, sorry, go for it.
yeah. I do think my background in theory and composition from a formal perspective is really useful in the studio, in particular, producing other artists. That goes a long way. So, I mean, I do think of myself probably first and foremost as a composer. So even if I'm not actively composing, I'm using those skills in other areas of the music industry.
Right. And you just mentioned, recording other art. Who are some of the artists that you've had the pleasure of working with in studio?
Yeah, so I just finished working on a record for a new artist out here in New York. Her name is Mary Malady, and that record was released just a few weeks ago in January. Um, that is that was a really cool project. We worked on it for a few months. It's ska punk. There's a lot of really great guest artists on the record. So that's new, and that just came out. That I'm stoked about that one. Um, when I was in Texas, there were a lot of the local ska bands I recorded. Madeline was a band that did like maybe four records with me, I think. Um, the recording scene in New York, I haven't been doing quite as much ska music specifically, but my friends in Stop the Presses, I've done plenty of studio projects with them. Did some tracking for their recent full length. That was a couple years ago. Yeah, I mean, recording music, I love to record my own music. And I'm so backlogged on just my own material. Like I'm hopefully gonna start tracking the new parking garage rally circuit music next week. And then once that project's wrapped up, I would love to release two more records of my own music this year. So
This
yeah,
this year.
yeah, yeah,
Ambitious.
I've got a full schedule.
Oh man, you keep it busy. Has it been this busy like your entire time in music? Like being a music creator, music writer, producer?
Pretty much. It's it's tough like balancing all the different kinds of ways you can be busy in music. Like right now, or in the last 3 years, I would say the thing that I spend the most time on is live music production. And I'm sort of trying to taper some of that off right now to get back and focus on some more studio work. But yeah, the last 3 years, I was doing a lot of live venue engineering. I just did like a full US tour. With this artist Joe P. Plays alternative rock. I was his front of house engineer. We did the whole uh, states and a little bit of Canada, Eastern Canada in the whole fall, like September through December. So that kept me on the road and really busy for a while. But yeah, live production has been like a huge part of my schedule since moving to New York, which I love doing. I would love for it to be like 50% live shows, 50% studio work, but it's usually weighted towards one or the other. Like, the seesaw goes in one direction.
And live music production, it feels like a beast of its own. There's so many moving parts to it.
Oh yeah, like I mean, one of the most important parts of it is just like, you know, time management, like just keeping a cool head, like figuring things out, problem solving. It's like if you can figure out all the crazy shit that's happening, then you get to be an artist. But like there's so much like legwork, just like getting control of the situation, which I sometimes I love being in that position. Sometimes it gets real stressful, but I really feel like it's like the fastest crash course in learning engineering in any context is to just do live gigs.
There's a lot of heavy lifting involved. That's usually when I'm out, but I was a
Yeah,
lead singer,
yeah.
so I
We're always unloading and loading up the vans and trucks and everything. Yeah, that's a huge part of it too. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
yeah.
You won't see the band for quite a while when that starts.
Right. Yeah, like working at like venues in New York City, it's like you're lucky if your work day is 10 hours. Usually it's like 12, 14.
Right.
And it starts and ends with a lot of heavy lifting.
Going back to, I think it was 2015 you released it, Pack Rat.
2018.
It was 2018. Okay. My
Yes.
main question is in regards to which Jeff Rosenstock album you're talking about there.
Worry.
It
Yes.
is Worry. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because that's like one of the most perfect punk albums ever created.
Oh, yeah, I
Um,
agree. I agree. Yeah, that oh, what a cool pull. Yeah, I like I was pretty happy with that record when it came out. I think now listening back to it, like there's definitely some things that like, oh, I should have recorded that differently. I wish I had figured out how to sing a little bit better on that track. But uh that was a fun record for me to make. And I made it about like touring my ass off just, for months and months, just like in the van. And that particular lyric about listening to a Jeff Rosenstock CD was uh, about this. I think it was like a 2.5 week tour in that I did in 2016, the end of 2016, right after Worry came out, and I was touring solo acoustic, and so I was the only one in the van, and I was in this huge 15-passenger van by myself because that's the only car that I have, and the only CD that I had with me was Worry, and I had like a very limited amount of like music on my phone at the time. I think I was maybe I had a new iPhone 6 and it had very little storage. So I was pretty much just listening to Worry in the CD deck of that van on repeat for 2.5 weeks by myself.
well, I mean, there's worse things to listen to for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean that album was transformative. It was a huge influence for me. I mean, Jeff, it was I would say he's my favorite songwriter of all time, and I was a huge Jeff fan, but that was like sort of his breakthrough album for a lot of people that weren't Jeff fans yet. And it was bittersweet. Like now I'm part of like a community like where there's a lot of like other like-minded individuals, which is great. But then I was like, oh well, I listened to this before it was cool. That kind of attitude. I had to check that as much as possible.
What was
But
it? It was Bum the Music Industry was his other band. He had a
yeah, yeah. And before Bomb the Music Industry, his group, the Arrogant Sons of Bitches, they were
that's
the
right.
they were the big local band when I was in high school on Long Island. Yeah, if you were in high school in the early 2000s on Long Island and you liked ska music, ASOB was the band. Um, I I saw them at I don't remember all the details of the show. It was because I I didn't love them yet. I must have been like 15 and saw them at like a punk show in a church basement. Um, and it's it's sort of a weird band because they didn't really put out a proper album until after the band broke up. Like their only like real full length record was released, I think, like right as I was graduating high school. And they had already like been done playing shows at that point. And that album was really good. But I don't think like even like maybe 3 years before that in a church basement, I was really seeing the best of what what it would become. But it was cool, like just being around and seeing the growth of like what became like the Jeff Rosenstock mythology. And I just saw him at the local spot in Brooklyn at Warsaw last August when he did 9 shows, and I went to 5 of them, and perfect concert going experience.
Well, We Beg to Explode is apparently like a religious experience to see live.
Yeah, yeah,
It's typically a closer, if I'm not mistaken, like one of his
yeah,
closing
yeah,
songs.
yeah. I mean, every
Um,
every every night he had a different set list,
right.
uh, and but yeah, it was. I mean, I think I probably saw maybe close to 100 different songs. They played so many songs. I forget. Like they posted all the set lists. It's wild.
That's insane. And so, while we're on the topic, who are some of your other sort of influences in not only just, composition in being a musician or a producer? Who are some of your biggest influences that have sort of shaped your career?
I would say the big two for me are Jeff Rosenstock and RX Bandits. And I mean that was a band that I found in high school that was doing ska music, but was doing something a little bit left of center with it. Like their progressive influence really struck something in me. Um, and that's something that I've always appreciated. And I still bear that influence, maybe more than I should. But RX bands are huge for me. And then just like completely out of the ska world, bands like the Mars Volta, um, and Jimmy Eat World was a big one. Saves the Day. Those are bands that we did ska tributes to years and years ago. Um,
The Mass Ska Raids, is that correct?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like ska music and all the different subgenres of ska music, but I also like weird progressive stuff. I know the Mars Volta are about to release a new record really soon, and I'm very stoked about that.
You know, you can even hear it in your music. And I think it's Lavos, your guys' 2022 album.
Yeah, yeah. Our last like
Um,
proper full length release. Yeah.
yeah, it's a healthy dose of it seems like ska and progressive rock sort of slammed together in a way that Streetlight Manifesto could only wish to achieve.
Yeah, Streetlight is an interesting band. I love Streetlight. I've seen them live a bunch of times, and their live show is one of the best around. But you, I think they're almost at this point less of a. I mean, they're definitely in the ska umbrella, and like it's contentious to say whether they're ska or not, and they've said differing things on that over the years. But I think of Streetlight now more as like a folk punk band. I feel like the Eastern European folk punk music is like really present there, and even like not talking so much about like stylistically, but just in the compositional form, like the way that like Thomas like lays out phrases and stuff. Like there's a lot of like symmetrical phrases, a lot of like antecedent consequent kind of like organization of his musical ideas that seems very folk-y to me. And like that, he's talked about his Eastern European folk music influence quite a bit. And so it's such a jam-packed format, and it's very high tempo, and there's a lot of things going on. There's like four, maybe five horn players on stage. So it seems like it could fit with like crazy prog music, but I kind of think it's sort of like the other side of the spectrum, almost completely, where like folk music is like very like a very simple sort of kernel of like where the inspiration comes, and then he just like has it like totally like explode out in a million different directions. But I think it starts from sort of a different place. So I wouldn't say that Streetlight actually influences my writing, but I do love that band, of course.
Mhm. And I mean, well, while we're on the topic of ska, it's a genre that I love ska. So please don't get me wrong in this at all. But some people would indicate that it's a tired genre or a style of music that has become almost the butt of a lot of jokes in its own ways. Oftentimes it's endearing, but other times it can be sort of pointed towards ska. How do you feel about this sort of public perception of ska being sort of a gimmicky genre?
Yeah, it's it's a weird scenario because that idea that is very specific to a time and place, right? You've got 90s third wave, Real Big Fish and Sublime on the radio and that kind of thing. The Mighty Mighty Boss Tones in Clueless. And that was such a small microcosm, such a real just like a blip on the radar of like what the entirety of ska actually is. But if you're not an actual like ska fan, if you're just like a casual listener of music, you would never know. And being a in a ska band and having tons of friends all over the country in ska bands, just like living, breathing ska music constantly. It's like, of course, like we know how the decades long roots of the genre, um, and we don't necessarily think about it that way anymore. But there's always something that brings it back. Like, oh yeah, we sort of have to like be translators. Like we sort of have to like be an ambassador to like everybody else that's not like crazy and weird and into this music. And there's a really great podcast that I've been on called In Defense of Ska, And the hosts Aaron and Adam, they sort of like their premise is that okay, yeah, there's this genre that is wrongly maligned, and it's simply because y'all don't have all the information that you need. So they have on a lot of guests and like talk about like, oh yeah, like ska is actually a lot more common than we might perceive on like a mainstream level. Like everybody has like some ska roots. Like the connection to this genre is more than just watching, Clueless for nostalgia. So and Aaron wrote a book called In Defense of Ska, and he just released the second edition of that, and it's a great read. Um, but yeah, it's sometimes a funny disconnect, and I'm always humbled by it. Where like, oh yeah, right, you don't see the genre the way that I see it because I live and breathe this thing 100% of the time. But I mean, the way that I think of ska now, and if this could become a more accepted viewpoint, I think we'd have a much easier time. And I think it's getting there. Is that ska is like really just an umbrella term in as much as rock music is. That's how I think of it. Like, ska music, rock music, they both started like way, way back, like 1950s. You can trace these roots,
Mhm.
and what they've evolved into has gone in so many different directions. And I think, you know, honestly the parallels between just like rock and ska, like you can find as many different subgenres as you want in either of those under either of those terms.
Right.
uh, so yeah, the focus in America is or I guess in Canada too, it's not so much, you don't find it quite as much in like Latin America and Europe, but um like the focus that we see in our mainstream as like ska being a 90s dorky silly kind of thing is such a small fraction of what the genre actually can be. And what I think is really interesting now is that like the bands that are doing really great things in the genre
Mhm.
aren't doing what happened in the 90s. They're not
Right.
really doing what happened in any point of ska. It's sort of a new thing. It's sort of a combination of all the previous forms of ska that came before. And I don't know if there's ever really going to be another mainstream boom in the genre, but it also doesn't seem like we really need that because the consciousness of ska as a gimmicky kind of 90s thing seems to be fading as the generations are cycling out.
Mhm.
And what's coming up now as current ska is way, way more interesting than it ever has been, in my opinion. So I think we're making progress there. Yeah.
Which is good. It's like think of Prince Buster. Don't think of Hocus Pick.
Yeah,
And now I gotta ask, are you a video gamer?
I am. I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself like a gamer. I I never really played like the AAA kind of games. I've always been into retro Nintendo pretty exclusively. Um, Growing up, Super Nintendo and N64, that was like until I picked up a guitar, that was how I spent all of my time. And even throughout the years, I would replay like those old 90s RPGs. I play Chrono Trigger constantly.
Hence
Um,
Lavos. Is that
yeah, yeah.
okay? I was
Um,
curious about that.
and I got a Switch a few years ago. So I like as of like maybe like 3 years ago, I've been playing like current games, but the current games that I'm playing are like Mario's and Zelda's, and I
Standard
just
affair.
yeah, I just finished Octopath Traveler 2,
Ooh, how was
which
it?
I loved it. I loved the first one, and I mean the art style, the 2.5D like pixel art thing, I think is gorgeous. The music is gorgeous. I love turn-based JRPGs. I think the battle mechanics are just so strategic and awesome, and I sunk over 100 hours into each of those games. So that's my style of gaming. Definitely like more retro focused, and I love now that there are new games coming out that play into that aesthetic a little bit more. And Parking Garage Rally Circuit is, like a retro styled game. So it was perfect that we wound up working on that one.
Do you have any sort of connection with the music in video games that you sort of draw on in your current musical career?
I would say that, I mean, the Chrono Trigger soundtrack was hugely influential. And as far as like video game music, like being an influence, like I think like a lot of the big touchdowns for me are from the 90s. And it's interesting because like even like a game like Octopath Traveler, the music on these newer games, it's almost like film scoring. You've got full orchestras, you've got everything available to you. And I really like the charm that comes from the limitations of older video game music. I mean, I think that's like not an uncommon point of view. And I as a composer, I never really took a shine to film scores. Wasn't really ever like my thing. I do find TV scoring very interesting, but the grandiosity of film scores never appealed to me all that much. And I feel like a lot of newer games are going for the film score kind of thing, which doesn't quite grab me. Um, but the cool thing about like the like the Sega Saturn era of gaming, right? Is like you have games on CDs for the first time, so you can have CD quality audio. And what what those composers were choosing to do at the time was just putting like rock music on, which is great. Like it's not like the world of like huge budget like symphony orchestras. Like it's, hey, let's just get this punk band to play a bunch of songs on a Sonic game. And so I find that there's like another like sort of charming little like niche that happened because of like where the technology just wound up being at the time. So I really like that too, and that's sort of what I was doing when doing the parking garage rally circuits. Like, all right, punk band, ska punk band playing on a CD kind of thing.
Right. Did you have like a frame of reference for what you were composing for?
Yeah, I mean, so Wallaber was, Tim was developing the game. He had a lot of like the uh the game like pretty much done to send me, and it was very like stylistically accurate to the era. It's like this is like a 1998. We're playing an arcade racer on Sega Saturn. The vibe was like so evident, just like looking at his early builds. It's like, okay, everybody knows exactly what this needs. So yeah, I mean my references were like basically my pitch for the soundtrack was, you know, Mario Kart 8 meets Sonic Adventure 2, and sort of like wrapped up in my ska punk package that I do, that's mine. Um and it just came out the way that it's supposed to come out. Like I when the Holophonics started as a band, like we were very much like, all right, we're gonna follow the model of 90s third wave ska. So there was like a blueprint, like you check the boxes, and it's like really satisfying to like hit all the right notes that like everybody's expecting. And that kind of happened for this game also, where it's like, all right, everybody knows what this is supposed to be. Can I just deliver that? And I think it worked. I had a lot of fun doing it. And it's like, again, it's like a little niche thing. But when you draw attention to these little niche things from 25 years ago, uh, and everybody's nailing it, it's very satisfying.
I could only imagine so. And I mean, it seems like a very big change of pace from your normal, the Holophonics playing ska music, doing your own music, doing covers, to composing for a video game. So how was that like? How did that shift sort of come to be?
I mean, honestly, like I I just kind of like write music. I mean, so for a long time, I had like a little jingle studio when I was living in Texas, and I did maybe like 200 something jingles, like just for like random little radio ads or podcast spots, or like just a lot of like just, hey, I have a commission for whatever. Um, I did things like theme songs for people's Dungeons and Dragons characters, right? Where like they'd have like these epic games that they do on Sunday night, and they're like, all right, I'm bringing out my character. I need to like have entrance music for it. So like I got really used to like doing commissioned composition, where it's like, all right, we have a purpose that we need the music for. Can you do that? Can you do it on a time schedule and just like do the thing? So getting into the project, like that's sort of like the workflow that I was used to, but there was this like extra things like I've wanted to write video game music my entire life. This is like the opportunity that I've been thinking about since, I was a kid listening to like just sitting in like the Kingdom of Zeal in Chrono Trigger just to like let the music play. Yeah. Like when I'm 9 years old. Like
It sticks with you forever.
yeah.
Like the music
So
is one of those things.
yeah. So I mean, the opportunity presented itself. I was like, I had the experience to just like do the task, but then it's like, all right, this is a task that I've always wanted to do. I'm loving it. It was seriously one of the most fun projects I've ever been able to do. And I'm I'm like in the middle of the second one. I'm doing it all over again, which is great.
And like something that you've wanted to do your entire life, I would anticipate like a pretty high level of pressure regarding that. Like, I want to do this right. I need to do this correct. I need to do it to their liking. Was there that sense of pressure around composing this?
Yeah, to a certain degree. But I mean, I'm 36 and I've been doing music professionally for a long time, and uh, sometimes I need to like, just splash some water on my face and like, whoa, hey, like, wait a second, like you are doing this crazy thing, like stop and like take stock of like what's going on. Um, but for the most part, like I've got a lot of other gigs. So it's like, all right, this is one like this is my priority for these few months. I'm gonna do the best work I can. I'm gonna love doing it. But it is like, the professional job. Um, so I don't I don't think I get like as like caught up on like the pressure of like working for a deadline or anything so much anymore. I definitely used to. I do. I'm so glad that I did that jingle job. Like I did that from like 2017 to 2020, I think. And when I first started doing that, I do remember feeling a lot of pressure. It's like, all right, like you're hired for this specific gig, you need to do it, and that's a weird gig because the people hiring you are never musicians and they don't know how to communicate what they want. So you have to like really like read between the lines sometimes and like figure out, okay, maybe they ask for this thing, but like I don't think what they ask for is really what they want. So like trying to figure that out was a lot of pressure, and just making sure you do a good job for a client. That's a lot of pressure, but I don't know. Tim never really made me feel that way. Like coming from the developer side, he was such a professional guy to work with, and he had such a great game where it really took a lot of pressure off because it was like, all right, like we all were part of this, that like we know what it's supposed to be. Uh, like it like we just kind of get it, like it was great that like we had sort of like these cultural reference points, just like point to, like, oh yeah, that's going to be like that, it's going to be like that when when it turns this corner, like, and it opens up with the trumpets, like, yeah, great. Like we all just kind of like got on board really quickly, very much on the same page. So it was really a pretty stress-free project to work on. And coming back around again, now we're doing it the second time, doing more music. And the first week of just like sketching out some ideas, I was like, I really got to make this like live up to the first one. Like, man, did I give it everything I had the first time around? Can I even do this again? But after sitting around and like it all started happening, and even quicker this time around. It's even, yeah, I was surprised actually, but it's even easier process doing it again. So, um, I mean, this is really fortunate where I am. Like I'm doing something that I know how to do and something that I love to do. So yeah, I would love to keep doing it. Like video game soundtracks, like for the rest of my life, I would love to do this for another 50 years. That'd be amazing.
Well,
I can't imagine like 50 years from now we're still doing 90s themed like retro games. That'd be great.
eventually you might move on from ska, who knows? But living up to the first one, that's going to be a big challenge because I got to admit, it's Freaking
It
great,
is.
man. It is a I've
Thank
got it
you.
here. I've got it currently on my turntable. I really, really enjoy it. And it seems like a lot of the music from this album is stylized to fit the theme of the American city in which the level is based. Is that an accurate statement?
I did have a little bit of like sort of a connection to all those cities that like that presented itself in a like a personal way to like how I found inspiration for writing. I don't know if it was like necessarily what Tim was thinking when he designed the level layouts in the game. But I mean, I don't know if it really even like actually matches up in any way other than like my own personal experience.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean that guided my writing process a little bit. I did know that like the last level was going to be New York, and I was like, all right, New York's got to be a strong one. I really gotta do
It's
something
intense.
for New York.
Like that first guitar bit is it's menacing and busy and it feels like what New York looks like to me.
Right on. Yeah,
Um,
and Tim is out in California. And notably, there's not a California city. Oh, well, there's San Francisco, but
uh,
he's
yeah.
in Southern California. But
Yeah, that's another level, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the coastal cities have like the vocal tracks. And like Chicago, for example, like I don't know if that song sounds like Chicago to me, but like
Hmm.
the bands that the Holophonics played shows with all our years touring through Chicago, like that kind of influenced the way I was thinking about like the ska that a Chicago track would have, like sort of like a driving two-tone kind of feel.
It's very
Uh,
surfy. Like it almost feels like it's surf influenced.
yeah. I mean, like the guitar tone there is like the guitar having like the lead instead of like the horns for a lot of that is sort of like a it's like that weird like cross section where like some like two tone kind of ska had that where like the specials would like have like the lead guitar do something. There'd be some reverb on it, um, and it's just it's a nice little sort of variation. Like you don't have to have the horns doing everything all of the time. It's like
Mhm.
you've got a whole rhythm section, and other genres of music lean entirely on the rhythm section. So having like a little like surfy reverbed like guitar lead over like this sort of like a driving two-tone style, that just sort of like made me think of like when I was touring through Chicago in 2014, 2015, playing little DIY clubs with the bands that we played with in Chicago.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, like the Minneapolis track, I don't think that's necessarily like an indicative musical style of Minneapolis. It's more like weird proggy primacy kind of fusion thing. But
I was definitely gonna come and get you on that one for sure. It's like Minneapolis. That does not sound like you guys, but my God, it's brilliant. Like the bubbling bass throughout it. It blew my mind when I heard that.
oh yeah, that was that. Yeah, that the bass part on that killed my hands. I was so dead after that one. That was a tough one.
You did the bass on that.
Yeah.
Okay. And between Minneapolis and New Orleans, I've got those two basically constantly on repeat on my Spotify. I love it. It's so good. But yeah, no, it's an incredible album, and I cannot recommend it enough to folks. Oops, sorry. Recommend it enough to folks. It's fantastic, and I think there's still copies available. Hey?
Yep. We have copies available as of right now. I think I have like single digits left of the pink and blue splatter,
Oh,
uh,
that's beautiful.
like 8 or 9 left. But yeah, plenty more of like the other colors. Yeah, and then I'll probably do vinyl again for the next volume 2 soundtrack in a few
Right.
months. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it's gonna be tough to top this one, man. It's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
interestingly, the next set of tracks, it's the European expansion, and I've never been to Europe. I definitely don't have like a
Yet.
musical personal connection to any of those cities, so I'm writing a little bit more abstractly, but I do have like some of the early level layouts from Wallaber. He's been doing a lot of work, and some of them are pretty far along, and like there's some more interesting like twists on the format. So hopefully, um, everything lines up with like the cities as well as did the first time around. But I'm pretty optimistic about it all. Yeah.
Is there an idea of when that's gonna be dropping?
No like official date yet, but the spring. Yeah. But yeah, Wallaber has a lot of info about his upcoming projects on his TikTok and YouTube and everything. So yeah,
Okay.
everyone should check that stuff out.
We'll check it out to keep up with the Holophonics and your next big project here. Um, I would like to take a moment to do a little a game that I like to do with everyone. It's called 10 with Ty. So basically, how this works is that I'm going to ask you a total of 10 questions, very rapid fire, and I want you to give an answer that the first thing that comes to mind. You don't have to think about it too much. Better if you don't think about it. I'm not going to set a timer or anything. No pressure, a little bit of pressure, a lot of
Okay.
pressure. So, 10 with Ty. Question number 1. Eric Daino, what is your desert island game? A game that you would bring with you to a desert island?
Probably Chrono Trigger. Yeah, or Super Mario RPG.
Both excellent choices. Question number 2. If you weren't a musician, producer, what would you be doing for work?
I'd be I'd be dead. I'd be in the ground. There's no other possible choice for me.
Would be dead. Okay. Question number 3. What is your favorite song from Parking Garage Rally Circuit?
Mount Rushmore.
All right. Question number 4. Cats or dogs, and why?
Cats, because they can take care of themselves to a degree greater than dogs, and I only have so much attention to spare. I'm sorry.
You got no time for dogs. Got it. Number 5. What famous artist would you say you are most comparable to?
Ooh,
Take it easy. Don't hurt yourself.
I don't want to like claim anything outrageous.
Get pretentious. Come on. Sky's the limit.
I mean,
The limit.
Okay, I try to model as much of my musical career and philosophy on what Jeff Rosenstock has done. So I mean, I'll say Jeff Rosenstock.
Now, what are your top 3? This is question number 6. What are your top 3 desert island albums?
And the Battle Begun by RX Bandits. Probably Worry by Jeff Rosenstock. And I would say Stay What You Are by Saves the Day.
Very good choices. Fantastic stuff. Now, question number 7. What was the first vinyl that you bought?
I might not know the answer to this question. Oh wait, that I bought. I received a bunch of vinyl for free over the years, but I think it was COVID where I maybe bought my first vinyl record. Like, cause I didn't even have a turntable for a long time. I guess it was probably something on Bad Time Records early in COVID. That sounds right. Maybe it was "Can't Complain" by Kill Lincoln.
I am familiar with that.
First time I bought a record, having a turntable for the first time, and not just accumulating free records. Yeah, "Can't Complain" by Kill Lincoln. That was an early Bad Time Records release. That's Mike, who runs Bad Time Records. That's his band. And
Yeah.
And Matt, their sax player, has toured with the Holophonics a little bit too. He's played on my solo record. Yeah, that's a great record. Can't complain.
Question number 8. If you could produce an album for any artist, past or present, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Thank you. I pride myself on my questions.
Yeah, I
No pressure. A little bit of pressure. A lot of pressure.
I would probably say not a ska artist. I like branching out a little bit when I'm producing other artists.
Getting spicy.
Yeah, well, that's also, my inroad to throw in some ska, like turn them into a ska artist.
Ulterior motive. Very
Yeah.
good.
I mean, okay. I mean, this is something I would never get the opportunity to actually do, but I'll say Chris Farron, because I actually really love the production on his last record. He I think his album from 2023, Doom Singer, was probably my album of the year, and it was produced by Jay Som. And the like Chris Farron's always been a great songwriter, but the production really took it to some extremely interesting new places. And having having like that in his repertoire now, I would love to just like be in the room figuring out what the next thing would be. So I'll say Chris Farron.
Question number 9. What is your least favorite musical instrument?
Bassoon.
Nobody answers bassoon. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I
Wow.
had that ready to go. Locked and
Okay.
loaded. I hate the bassoon. It's so hard to find a good musical context for that instrument.
In a world of bagpipes, in a world of recorders, in a world of accordions, you go with the bassoon.
Soon, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry. No judgment. No judgment. No judgment. Okay, question number 10. What is the best wave of ska music?
The best fourth wave.
Fourth wave. That's your wave, right?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay. Fair enough.
trick question.
All right, and that is 10 with Ty. Eric, thank you so much for going along with this silly little thing that I do.
Great, yeah.
Took a while to get there, but we got there.
Yeah.
And so getting back into the interview, moving away from that, what would you say are some of the video game songs that have sort of resonated with you through time? Like, do you have any specific examples of songs?
Um, yeah, so when uh when the Holophonics were doing a lot of cover albums, we put out a video game record in 2017. It was the 10th volume of the Masquerade series, and the like because we were still very much like doing like gimmicky kind of things at that time, and we had done 9 albums of cover songs, and we were like, all right, so for the 10th one, we're going to make it volume X, like Mega Man X. And, and then volume 11 won't be volume 11, it'll be volume X2, which I just thought was such a funny niche reference. We didn't wind up doing an X2. We only did one volume of video game records, and we did put a Mega Man X song on there, Armadillo. But that record that we did, I think, was just some of the great video game songs that I had loved for years that I thought would translate well to ska. Um, One of the standout tracks on that record for me was the Secret of the Forest, or like the Forest Path, Forest Maze track from Super Mario RPG.
The Geno's Maze?
Yeah. Super Mario RPG soundtrack is sort of a like an odd duck because it never got an official North American release. It only had a Japanese release. So like the translations are like a little inconsistent. And I don't think you could actually even legally release covers um like with that, like with the right clearance or whatever. You'd have to get like some different more expensive kind of license to do it because it never had an official release in this region. So I think maybe that track isn't actually on Spotify. I think that we maybe only released that as a Bandcamp download. Um,
Interesting.
because we couldn't get the regional license at a reasonable rate. So but that was a like that's always been like it's sort of like an eerie kind of song. And we really changed it up for the ska version. Like we slowed down the tempo a lot, and the arrangement wound up being like very different from the original, which is usually where find like the most interest in doing these kinds of things. So that's a real standout track for me. Um, that whole record was like such a silly endeavor. And I listen back to it, like a lot of the early recordings, I'm like, we really weren't using best practices in the recording studio then. Wish this was tracked better, wish I performed that better. So it's kind of hard to listen to some of that earlier stuff, but um, that was really the first time that I was like, all right, like I love video game music, let's do some video game music. Um, and it would be, several years later until like started doing like some heavier work in that arena. But yeah, I mean, that was a fun little,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, yeah, the Forest Maze from Super Mario RPG. I'd say maybe that's one of my top video game tracks of all time.
It's a banger for sure.
Yeah.
And that leads us nicely into what might be one of my favorite releases of all time. I gotta say, Banjo Skazooie.
Oh, you got the Kurt Cope
I
autograph
I'm
copy.
that big of a fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Banjo Kazooie is my favorite. Banjo Kazooie is my favorite game. So I was absolutely tickled to see that this was getting a release, and especially in the ska styling, which is a genre that I love dearly. And so, whose idea was it to do the Banjo Kazooie OST in the ska stylings?
Well, that was Respawn Records. That was totally his idea. He contacted me. Um, and it was kind of it was a really weird experience. I'll just put this out there.
Let's hear it.
I did not have a good experience working with Respawn Records. I we did two albums. We did Banjo Kazooie and Donkey Kong, um, and they both came out pretty decently from my end. I mean, again, like
I
they
like
were
them.
they were recorded in COVID and like not. I didn't have like the most ideal studio conditions, but they were big projects, and it was certainly worth doing. But that was entirely Respawn Records' idea, and the Banjo Kazooie release was like a little bit disorganized, and like there's like typos on the jacket, like the track names are all wrong and stuff, and our name isn't even on the jacket of that one.
It's what?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's got the tiny little writing at the bottom there. Like,
It was weird because
oh,
I sent him the finished audio, and he was like, "Okay, I'm working on the art. I'll let you know when the art's in." And then I didn't hear from him for a few months, and then all of a sudden it's released, and I didn't even know. I'm like, "Did I just release an album last week?" People are emailing me, telling me like, "Hey, where can I get this? Like, what? Like, what are you talking about?" So it was a little embarrassing. Um, Someone surprise released my record.
well, that's fascinating to know. I didn't know any of that backstory, so that like really opens my eyes.
Yeah, it was disorganized, and that's putting it nicely. And so, that was entirely his idea. Um, we did the Donkey Kong record also after that, and I was like, "Hey, so last time like we had these issues, can we like not have that happen again?" And it all happened exactly the same way again.
I just had to throw my pen down. I knew it. Dang.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you did both of these records. I think they're fabulous. Did you get to work with Grant Kirkhope at all on that, or David Wise on the Donkey Skong
No,
Country?
no, no. They weren't involved at all. I mean, it's cool that like, after it happened, like it made its way to those guys. I mean, obviously, like, they've been huge influences. The Yeah, I mean, and both of those games or like both those series of games have been huge favorites of mine for forever also.
Mhm.
It was definitely like a real interesting project. In that, I didn't do every single track off of those soundtracks, but a lot of them. And just even analyzing like the full body of work like that of a video game soundtrack uh really made me understand the material in a different way. And Banjo-Kazooie in particular, it's it's such an interesting case because you think about like the main theme, it's present everywhere in the game, which is
Mhm.
like sort of interesting the way that happens. And it's so tightly composed. It's very much like Beethoven is like sort of like the prime example in classical music where you take one little motive and then you develop it over and over again and you use that the small like, it's very like economical in its use of musical material, where you take like the tiniest bit and you get as much mileage out of it as possible. And that's the Banjo Kazooie soundtrack. You get
Mhm.
these little themes that just happen everywhere throughout the entire game, all these levels. And then what makes it interesting is like the orchestration. Like, okay, now it's on this instrument. Now you go over to that side of the level, and it's on that instrument. Um, so just like analyzing that score was like a really great exercise for me as
Mhm.
like a composer. Like, let me like get my chops up to like be able to handle this. And like, all right, so now like I'm covering it, right? And like, okay, maybe this track sounds very different in the game, but like when you lay it out, it's actually very similar. So now I have to like do it all over again and do exactly what Grant Kirkhope did by like, how do I make this unique from track to track? But now we're in just a totally different overall style. So it was
Mhm.
challenging. But yeah, I mean, it was fun doing it. I love doing it. And honestly, I doing the Donkey Kong music, I like that music even more than Banjo Kazooie. Like, I was in on Donkey Kong Country from like the first one on Super Nintendo. Like I was all the way in. And
Well,
even
your aquatic ambience kills it.
oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean like tracks like that, it's like perfect for dub reggae. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
that was maybe a little bit easier for me to just like immediately hear like, okay, this song, this track needs to be this certain style. Like two tone here, punk there, reggae there. Like it all was very clearly laid out for me on that one.
It's interesting that you say like the various motifs because Grant Kirkhope's previous experience was with GoldenEye, where they had that 007 motif throughout the entire game, and
Yeah.
so it makes sense that he carried that over to Banjo Kazooie. And I don't think I necessarily realized that. But with such familiar melodies and such distinct and beloved songs, how did you guys manage to keep that unique style, that style that is sort of purely holophonics? Like, how did you carry that over with such memorable tracks?
I mean, thankfully, I think that's something that doesn't have to require too much like thought at this point in my development as a musician, where like I think I've begun developing my own style that sort of seeps in no matter what I do. And it's actually pretty useful to get to that point where like no matter what I do, it's like it's going to sound like me in some way. So it makes it way easier to like steal other musicians' ideas. And like, this is like the big thing about composing. It's just like, all right, learn the songs that you like, learn the music that you like, and just like steal their ideas. Like that's like every great artist. Because like no matter like if you're good at what you're doing, you can steal as many ideas as you want. And once they go through your own filter, they're going to be yours anyway. So that's not something that I am very conscious about, and I think it's good that way. If I just have my own style that like comes out, that means that I'm not ripping anyone off too hard.
No, that's fair enough. Um, I think that also goes back to the roots of the genres, right? Like it's hard to get anything original that isn't completely influenced by another artist that came before you.
Sure,
Um,
and especially working in a genre like ska, which has such a rich history, and that's maybe where ska differs from other genres, like in other more umbrella term genres like rock, whereas like the reverence for the history is really important, and I think you can tell when a ska band like knows their ska history, like it comes through in their playing, like the way that they arrange things and. Um, just like especially with the rhythm section, there's a particular kind of syncopation that I mean, yeah, like you could write it out on a lead sheet and get any other drummer to just like sit in and play the notes, but you need a ska drummer to really have that feel. And you need years of experience learning the genre, paying respect to the genre. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's that kind of unique thing about and other genres have it too. I mean, there are all sorts of like jazz. Like you have to know the whole history of jazz to be like a really good jazz player.
mhm.
So it's these very idiomatic hallmarks of ska come through pretty noticeably, I think.
Who do you think is the most historically relevant or historically important ska musician?
Hmm.
That,
That's a
it's a tough question.
I'm not a ska historian, so I don't know if I could make like a
You
real
fooled me.
definitive statement on this. Um, I mean, there are people that, like there are people that have like contributed to the genre in ways that like are more than just musical. Um, like I don't know, people like maybe Mike Park come to mind, where he had Skank and Pickle, uh, and then he's got all of his other bands, but he also has Asian Man Records that like provides ska music like that wouldn't otherwise make it to people's record players. So the cultural impact of like a good ska musician is like I think it extends beyond even just the music. So yeah, I mean like if you were to say it's like maybe something more specific like ska punk, like a Mike Park would be a great example of someone like that. Um yeah, I mean I'll go with Mike Park. I'll go
There's no
and I'll
right or wrong answer.
yeah. That's my answer. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for that guy and the music that he's made. I think it will remain extremely relevant.
How are you at describing things in 3 words?
Ooh, I'm quite verbose usually, so I don't
I can
know.
tell. I think this is going to be a challenge.
Okay.
So I've got a couple concepts here, things, concepts, and I'm hoping that you can use 3 words for each thing just to describe them, your personal thoughts on them, your beliefs, the first 3 words that come to mind.
Okay.
Usually gives us some good insight to what kind of person you are. And so no need to be nervous, but this is a big reflection of you.
All right.
So let's see here. We'll start easy. Ska music, 3 words.
Syncopated, important, fun.
Microphones made by Shure.
Cheap, overrated, contextual.
Okay.
They can be right in some contexts. Live, there's always a better answer than the SM58. Um, you may not have time to find that right answer, so it's possibly the quickest answer. It's not always the best answer. I do
Fair
like
enough.
an SM7B. Uh, I recorded a great record with an SM7B on snare recently.
Okay.
But in general, I think there are better answers to any question than sure.
Sure. Yeah. Banjo Kazooie.
Now, my association is messed up, but I'll think ska immediately. Bird and bear.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. And vinyl records.
Expensive, uh, dusty.
You don't think highly of vinyl.
Well, mine are always getting dusty, and I don't take good care of them. But I don't have the space to spread out and like really listen to like some good vinyl records.
That's why we collect them is for the price and the space that they take, the inconvenience of them.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, I have a couple on my wall. So right, expensive, dusty decorations.
Oof. Oh, that hurts to hear. Bass guitars,
Foundation, tone, reverend,
horn sections.
trumpets, trombones, saxophones.
Wow. Didn't see that one coming. uh, touring.
Great, terrible, expensive.
The Holophonics.
Great, terrible, expensive. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Uh, mustard.
Plug, Dijon, uh, spicy.
And last one, Eric Daino.
Ugh, anxious, um, stressed, and overworked.
That's Eric Daino. Okay, that's you in a nutshell. Questions. I am curious, do you have any like, vinyl records with video game music on them? Like any video game vinyl?
I don't. Yeah, I I don't have much of a vinyl collection. I would love to like get to the point where I do. I have a buddy that is like super into vinyl. He's an engineer that I work with, and he's always telling me like, "Oh yeah, this is a great turntable. You got to get these amps." And like when I have like a dedicated space to like listen to vinyl and like sit down and just be able to do that, I'm sure I will get more into it. But like bouncing between a couple different recording studios and just like going from show to show, it's I don't have like a big like space for like living a life right right now. Um that I mean it's certainly a goal. I would love to like be a vinyl guy and like actually listen to records, but um I mean 99% of my listening is, through like Spotify, but like I I when I listen to Spotify, I turn their loudness normalization off and I listen through my like good studio monitors, like the good
Okay.
ones.
I
So,
bet you like that gives you probably some good perspectives as to like how what people are doing right versus what people are doing wrong is for
yeah,
your
oh yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, that's the thing is like listening to vinyl, it's going to be a colored listening experience. So like I find that like so much of my attention as a listener to music has to be like, analytical. And I don't have like a lot of time to just like enjoy listening to music. Like, so, yeah, I do want to like hear all the music that I love the way that like I hear music that I make in the same context. So like I do a lot of listening through my studio monitors, and like, uh, definitely like get like weird about like loudness and stuff. Like I was listening to the Knocked Loose record. My buddy is their monitor engineer, and the album they put out last year it just rips. It is so heavy and amazing, but it's at like -2 loose. It's like it's so loud. The thing is like it just wants to explode every head that it gets into. It's it's the loudest shit I've ever heard. And on, honestly, it sounds amazing. It's so crazy how they made it that loud and still sounding so good. Uh,
I'll have to check it out. I just can't say I've heard it, so
yeah, Knock Loose. I mean, if you like heavy music, in the hardcore metal world, they are really doing some cool things. They were just on Jimmy Kimmel, and
oh,
they had a somewhat controversial time there because they just played heavy music. It's all screaming. It's like, as sort of the interesting thing about heavy bands is like when they get some mainstream success, they start getting less heavy. They throw in some melodies and stuff and like
I've
things that people
noticed.
can sing. This band, they're holding their ground and they are still just like abrasive screaming. It's heavy. It will never not be heavy. And they did that on Jimmy Kimmel, and people didn't like it.
Ah, screw them. Stick it to the man.
Oh,
Hold on, knock loose.
a lot more people did like it, which was great. But yeah,
Beautiful.
their album is awesome. It's so loud though, but I love being able to like listen to music like that through like my studio equipment. And it's going to be a while before I get a space where I can just like listen to like, a colored uh like tube amplifier for a turntable.
Right. And so coming to a close here, I'm curious, what is something that you could tell anybody watching that will put a smile on their face? You know, a joke, an anecdote, an experience that you've had during your time as a musician.
Ooh. Um,
I
hmm.
need a smile. Cheer me up.
My see, my music career experience is not the most cheery. I I would say I do a lot of what I do in spite of it being terrible. Or let's see. I mean, I was just on tour the entire fall. I don't know if I can think of like a funny story, anything that happened while we were on the road. Um, uh, yeah, I mean, okay, if anybody wants, I'll talk about touring with this artist Joe P. He put out a really great record called Garden State Vampire last August, and we were on tour. I was his audio engineer for the whole fall. His bass player Tony is a real character. This guy. he wears beaters like religiously. He's always got a beater on and a cigarette and
I can already
he
picture him.
yeah, sunglasses, cigarette, beater, uh bass player. He real talkative guy. Um we were staying at a hotel and there was a roach in his room, and he made a really big deal about it to the concierge. And he, nobody was a dick, but he this was an ongoing conversation that like we were there for like 2 nights, and like the manager that was there, they heard about it. The next day, that manager heard about it. Like everybody in this hotel heard about the roach that was in Tony's room. The story gradually like evolved. Like, okay, there was really just like a roach like in the bathroom and like crawled away or whatever. But it turned into the roach woke him up by crawling across his beater while he was sleeping. Um, they 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 gave these hotel guys such a hard time. But then the apology was so profuse. They were like, okay, like Tony just like, he knew he made a big deal about it, but we were leaving, right? So he apologized to the guy. I wish I could remember this guy's name, but the guy that went up to the room to like actually like get the roach. That guy, um he was getting 5-star reviews. And what we did for the next like few days, we would continue calling the hotel at like from the van, like the next like few days on tour, to pump up this guy. I forget his name. But we all call the hotel. We're like, hey, is so and so there? Like, oh no, he doesn't come in till 2 or whatever. It's like, okay, well, when he gets in, make sure you let him know that he's a star. He's doing really great. And we would just keep calling the hotel, just like hyping this guy. Um, so this is a thing that anybody can do now. Is what we realized. Like you can just call a business and hype up their employees. Just hey, you went to CVS and there was somebody that gave you minimal help. You can call the manager and tell them that they're a star, but don't let it stop there. Keep calling. Keep reminding these people. I This is a great technique. If like it's so positive and so overwhelming. I honestly, I mean, we don't know whatever happens. I mean,
Yeah, how would you?
we
But you
we
overwhelm them with joy. Like,
we can't follow up. But I would just recommend this as a best practice. Just call, but keep calling. It's the persistence that really does this. This is a trick for everyone to
it's
take
like
home with them.
therapeutic warfare. Like, there's something unfair about that. Uh, yeah, it's brilliant and mastermind.
Yeah, a new tactic that we learned on that tour. So yeah, everyone
Okay.
can take that one.
Quite literally kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
Um, Alrighty. Well, with all that said and done, I just want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today about, all of your projects, your work as a musician. You're a fantastic musician, and I thank you for the music. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Where can people hear your music? What music have you got right now? I know you've got this on the go. This is your big thing, and I would recommend people check it out. But where can people find this?
Sure. Yeah, I mean the music is everywhere that music is online. I guess the best place to get our music would be on Bandcamp. So the holophonics.bandcamp.com, or my solo music is ericdaino.bandcamp.com. We got the vinyl records there. There's yeah, like dozens of digital albums to download. The other big thing would be my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Eric Daino. And all the music that I do make goes there first. So the Parking Garage Rally Circuit, the European expansion, those tracks, those will be up on Patreon before anywhere else. Um, I have a podcast called Eric on Tour, where it's a solo podcast where I just talk about all the shows that I've played on the road over the years. And I have a podcast called Adventure Guys that I do with my friend Nick, where we review every episode of Adventure Time, the cartoon. But we go completely out of order. It's in a random order. So you're not stuck on the first season for forever. Like we bounce around. There's no rhyme or reason to it. But we just love the show Adventure Time.
How could you not? Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for taking the time today. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ty. This was great.